Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live with me, Daniel Caw, and Mr. Wonderful, Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Where did you get that one from?
just came to me at the last minute.
You've been speaking to my wife? Obviously not. Well, Super Sunday today, isn't it? My God, games all over the shop.
Well, obviously, the first one that we have to talk about, Keith, is the result from the Highlands. Ross County 1, Celtic 2. It was a day where it looked like Celtic were on the verge of dropping points. It looked like their unbeaten start to the season was going to go, but as we always say with a Celtic team, they find a way.
I don't know how many times I've seen that movie. You know, there's something with a real resilience about Celtic. They've been in these situations and these close scrapes time and time again, and without fail, just about without fail, they managed to find a way out of it. I don't think anybody would have been surprised that they got 2 late goals, that they turned it around. I think you've got to credit Brendan Rodgers again for the substitutions that he's made, because everybody that he sent on really made an impact and helped change the momentum of the match. And it was all too much for Ross County, who put in a brilliant performance. But, you know, I think that must kind of deflate you when, you know, you're running for 90 minutes, you're closing everything down, you're carrying out your manager's instructions to the letter, and then you look over and you see, look what's coming on now, and it's a fresh batch of guys that are coming on off the bench, and everybody's, as we've spoken previously about on here, every Celtic substitute that comes onto that pitch knows he's got a chance, has to go and deliver, has to do something to try and, you know, stay in the team to make an impact, and it was just too much. But we've seen it, and by the way, we've seen it time and time again, even at just Ross County. Celtic have done it over a number of occasions recently, where, you know, they've maybe toiled for parts of the game, and then they come on strong at the end, and they get the points and they come back down the road. But that felt like a big win, especially after, you know, the trauma that they encountered or experienced in Dortmund. So, you know, had they left a couple of points behind, or 3 points behind up the road, then it might have been a gloomy old trip back down south, going into the international break. And then, you know, we've got Aberdeen and Hearts currently at 1-1 just now. If Aberdeen can find a winner in that game, then they stay top with Celtic on 21 points from 7 games, going into the game at Celtic Park after the international break. So, I mean, it's all bubbling away. There's plots and subplots and drama to be had everywhere you look just now. It is really, really intriguing. It's seldom not.
I should say to everyone watching, we will keep you abreast of events at Pittodrie. As Keith says, 61 minutes gone. It's Aberdeen 1, Hearts 1. Gannon with the goal for Aberdeen, Frankie Kent with the goal for Hearts. We will have plenty of fan comments as well. Jack Jones on Facebook says, you always get half a dozen games like this in a season. Main thing is Celtic never panicked and won in the end. Before I come on to more fan comments, Keith, one man who was at the Global Energy Stadium was Record Sports' Michael Gannon. And even though he'd been kicked out of the stadium by the time I caught up with him, did hear what he had to think on the game a little earlier on. Here's what he had to say. Joining us in the Hotline Live now is Record Sports' Michael Gannon. Not quite from the Global Energy Stadium, Mick. I understand you've been given your marching orders.
No, well, I'm in the Global Energy Stadium car park, if that counts. So much for Highland hospitality. We've been kicked out the ground, so we've organised. So yeah, we're just in the car park, ready to hit the road back down to Glasgow.
You're obviously there because of Celtic have beaten Ross County 2-1 this afternoon. It wasn't pretty. It reminded me a wee bit, Mick, of, do you remember the game under Ange Postecoglou, the last minute Ralston winner? Similar kind of vein. It looked like Celtic when he dropped points, but as ever with the Celtic team, they find a way.
Yeah, it did look like a day when the points were going to be going. I just think there did look like a hint of a kind of the old cliche, the European hangover. There looked like a few weary limbs. Listen, I think first and foremost, don't take anything away from Ross County. They were terrific. They were, when I mentioned it in my match report in tomorrow's paper, they produced a kind of performance that a lot of Celtic fans wanted to see from their team in Dortmund the other day. Yeah. It was 5-4-1, it was organised, but they also carried a threat the top end of the pitch. The boy Ronan Hale was terrific, as has been all season. Great again.
Yeah.
They get their noses in front. Wasn't much happening in the first half. Not enough a lot going on. Not a lot. Celtic a lot of the ball without doing much with it. Not forcing any real kind of saves for the goalkeeper or anything like that. In fact, probably the only save made in the first half was from Kasper Schmeichel. And they get the penalty kick. It was a penalty kick, by the way. It's a handball. Yeah. I don't think there's any argument. I think Kevin Clancy did a good job. Listen, he could have spotted it right away, but these days it's best to wait and see and get a bit of backup from the guys in the VAR hut. They flagged it up at the cross. It's a pretty easy decision to make, really. Penalty kick. Fair play to Wee Hale. I mean, pressure. I mean, that away stand behind the goal, we're all giving it big licks. Kasper Schmeichel messed with the penalty spot, tried to talk in his ear. I mean, the kid stepped up and he looked as though he'd kind of lost a wee bit of nerve in the penalty kick. Wasn't a great penalty kick. Schmeichel saves it, but then it does look like Schmeichel's off his line. It's spotted by the officials. The other retake. Celtic fans are raging, but he has stole a yard from his line. You see it again. Yeah. And I was really surprised at that point that the boy was going to take it again. Usually when you see miss a penalty, you think somebody else is going to step up. But no, he took it again. And this time he emphatically drilled it in the bottom corner.
I was convinced he was going to miss that. Convinced.
I thought he'd been outside the first time, and then he did that. Great bottle. Good wee player. I mean, I said, and then Ross County were ahead. I wouldn't say deservedly ahead because Celtic were dominating, but a kind of rope-a-dope kind of fixture. They got ahead and there's something to hang on to. I don't think Celtic did an awful lot more early second half. But they made changes when they brought on Kyogo. Last in the middle of the park, I think Arnie Engels and Rio Hatate struggled a wee bit, looked a bit leggy. Yeah. I think I said in this programme before, I think Engels at one point very soon is going to hit the wall. The way he started life at Celtic, he's been such a good level. So many big moments as well. I think at some point he's going to have a wee bit of a dip and it's going to catch up with him. I think it happened in Dortmund. I think the game passed him by out there. And again today, don't think he was great. Needs a break. International break's come at a good time for him. He's away with Belgium, but by change of scenery for him, I don't think he'll start for them. So that'll be a good little way to reset for him as well after a good start. The changes they made. Bernardo came on. Luke McCowan came on. I think they added a wee bit of a drive middle of the park.
I thought McCowan was particularly good, Mick. I thought
a real kind of directness about him. Yeah, I thought he was good. The pressure was always there. Celtic were always putting him under pressure. I say chances starting to kind of appear just before the changes were made. Celtic had 2 or 3 quick fire chances. The goals are a wee bit fortuitous. I mean, Callum McGregors had a winder at it. I don't know where it was ending up, but it pinballed around and it's come off. I think it's come off Johnston and spun it in the net. So it was a wee bit lucky, but that's what you need sometimes when there's that much pressure, that breakthrough. Once you get the breakthrough, they went for it big time. And you did feel there was a bit of inevitability about the second one coming. I know it appeared, it came late, but there wasn't any panic in the way end. There wasn't much panic on the pitch. They just seemed to be a knowledge that if they kept banging away, they'll get a chance. In the end, it was a terrific ball from Johnston. Spot the run of Kuhn and a brilliant finish from a guy who's banging form. He was actually good today. I thought he was one that was forcing the issue and trying to be busy and a bit more of a cutting edge to him, whereas some of his teammates are a wee bit off it, I think. But it's a great ball from Johnston. I don't think he had a great game either. I think you can tell he's maybe struggling a wee bit with injury. He wasn't quite himself today. I think he struggled a wee bit in midweek as well. But he got through it, popped up with a goal, albeit that's just hit off him. And then
I know much about it.
But yeah, it's one of those games that I don't think performance. It was result above performance. I think it's one of those games you need to get if you're going to be winning titles and competing for titles. That's what you need to do. You need to win when you're not quite your best. We've had a long week on the road. We've been to Perth, Dortmund, and then here. Midday kick-off in the Highlands after a European game is a bit as tough as it gets, and they've got the job done. And I think you got to say fair play for. And they've done it in a different way. I mean, I know this week they talked about Celtic's style and the way they play and all that stuff. Well, today was a kind of roll up the sleeves and just get it done and just getting a result by hook or by crook, and they got there eventually. You
could almost feel. I mean, this is why Brendan Rodgers and the Celtic sides have been so successful, because you could almost feel the anticipation from Rangers and anyone else who wants to catch them. It felt like they were going to drop points, but not only did they take all points, but it was the way they took it as well. Yeah. It was that kind of crushing feeling for their opponents, really.
I think it's the most dispiriting thing, isn't it, for your rivals? Not the pitch at the time. I think Ross County were devastated by the late goal. rightly so. But they can take a lot of heart from the performance as well. And it won't stop. They were unbeaten in 3 going in. It should have been 3 wins, apart from a late goal with Hearts. They won't lose momentum from this because they can take a lot of confidence from this. But I think in terms of, if you're sitting watching this, if you're Rangers, Aberdeen, or whoever, thinking this is a chance for them to slip up some points here, this is going to be a good day. To go and do it in that way, it's quite disparate, isn't it? And that's what Celtic would have done over this last decade. I mean, and beyond. I mean, late goals are a kind of 40, aren't they, at Celtic? But it's not a coincidence, these late goals. It's not just about desire and playing the final whistle. There is a lot of that, but it's also quality. I mean, you guys like Kuhn, like quality, you're always liable to get something and they'll take it. And it's always been the case. But it's one of those ones when, if you're Rangers sitting there watching this thinking that there's a chance to go this afternoon and cut the gap. So for 70 odd minutes, 80 odd minutes, I'm thinking there's a chance to cut the gap here. It's game on, league title races back on, all this kind of stuff, and bump. It is a crushing blow. And now the pressure's on them to go and get a result this afternoon, just to stay in touch. So it's a psychological blow to everyone else. As
you say, Mick, it's the international break, but you're off to Sligo with Celtic for a friendly with Sligo Rovers on Wednesday. You must be excited. You end up everywhere. Dortmund, Highlands, Ireland.
Listen, I don't know talking about Alan Enno's been knackered. I'm knackered myself.
It's a fair point, aye.
Sligo. Yeah, I think it's going to be a kind of mostly a kind of B team. You might see guys like Alex Baye getting another run out just to get some game time. Luke McCowan might get a run out. So there'll all be some guys that get. I think Adam Eden needs games as well. I think you might see him play. Yeah. Oh no, he's with Ireland, isn't he? Sorry, Ireland. But so he won't be with Celtic. But so we kind of fringe guys that are not involved in the internationals. I wouldn't imagine Callum McGregor will be given a shift. I'd imagine he'll be told to go and sit his feet up for a week. It's a game. It's a chance for some of the guys in the fringe, some of the young boys maybe as well, to try and impress the manager and push towards the first team. But I don't think it's going to be a game. I mean, Rodgers is going over. I asked him after the game if he's. I said, he get a few days off or is he going over? He says, no, he's going over. I think there's close links with the club at Sligo Rovers. I think Dermot Desmond's got close links as well. So it's it's an area in town. It's a big part of kind of Celtic history as well. So we kind of romanticise kind of wee journey for them as well. But in terms of the game itself, we're running out for some of the fringe boys. But I'll be going to watch see how they look. We'll do some bits with some of the guys behind the scenes.
Aye, nice one. Well, have a good trip, Mick, when that comes, and safe travels up the road this afternoon.
No worries. All the best.
Thanks for joining us, Mick. Much appreciated.
At 9 hours, I get back to the road.
Safe travels. Cheers.
Cheers.
It is a brutal drive back from Dingwall. Keith, you can attest to that. Before we go any further, goals galore at Pittodrie. Aberdeen 2, Hearts 2. Hearts had taken the lead through Blair Spittle, but Nicky Devlin, Scotland's Nicky Devlin, has equalised. 20 minutes or so to go in that one. We'll keep you abreast of everything that's happening in there. Right, a couple of fan comments then, Keith, on today's game. This one, a lot of people talking about Nicolas Kuhn and whether or not he deserved to see a second yellow card for celebrating Celtic's winner. Chris Boyd, I think, on the telly was making quite a big deal of it.
No, like him.
Gaz Keir, does it really matter? The stupidest rule there is. Why not let players celebrate with their fans? Greg Robertson, football is a passionate sport. To score a last-minute win and celebrate with your fans should never be punished, no matter what team you are. And Mickey Meehan here, just, I think, trying to wind up some Rangers fans in the comment section. We have to keep winning. Good side, Aberdeen just behind us. Did you think, Keith, that Kuhn deserved a second yellow? I mean, I do get...
I hate the rule. I hate the rule, but the rule is the rule. And I know why it's there. It's a health and safety issue. I think the police had a part in that, but saying, it can cause crowd surges, and we've seen examples of fans spilling onto the pitch, all that sort of thing. I don't like the rule, but it is the rule. So in that respect, I think Nicolas Kuhn's got away with one there. As ridiculous as the rule might be, it's a sort of textbook yellow card, isn't it? So yeah, he's got away with one there, I think.
Mo Sislak, and watching live on YouTube, who I believe is Mo the bartender from The Simpsons.
He is.
says the rule is daft, which I think sums up a lot of people's feelings on it. I do think it was daft. This comment though, being a Celtic fan myself, I also thought at the time Kuhn is off, second yellow. If that was Rangers boys, would have never mentioned it. I was surprised, Keith, to be honest, that he didn't get shown a second yellow card. It did look to me. I thought he would have got it.
Kevin Clancy's just overlooked the rule book there, hasn't he? Look, as I said, you would take absolutely zero pleasure for seeing a guy sent off for scoring a goal, because that's effectively what it is. Yeah. But you know, we've seen it happen countless times. So yeah, very lenient from Kevin Clancy there.
The other kind of talking points from the game itself, a lot of people in the comment section arguing about whether or not Luke McCowan deserved a free kick in the build-up to Celtic's winner. What did you think? Personally, I thought it was just a free kick. What did you think, Keith?
Soft. It was on the soft side.
But do you think it was a foul?
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure. But what I will say is what happened. Callum McGregor grabs the ball, does what Callum McGregor does, sets Celtic off, spots the quick free kick, plays the pass. You know, 2-3 seconds later, Kuhn's in for the winner. That's just brilliant for Callum McGregor. You can argue all day long whether it should have been a reward or not given in the first place. And I think Don Cowie's come out afterwards and said, you know, he was very disappointed in it. He didn't think it was a free kick. I kind of side with him a little bit, but I think where you've got to just marvel at the good play that McGregor is quick enough to set Celtic off. And at that point, Ross County, they're tired, knackered, I would have thought, and they just couldn't keep up with Celtic's intensity at that moment. You know, they switched off a little bit. But that's just good play. It's just good play from Callum McGregor. Now, you've seen these given, you've seen them not given. I don't think it's worthy of spending a lot of time arguing about it, because it could have gone either way. But what impacted and what affected the match was Callum McGregor's quick thinking to set Celtic off. And you know, again, something you've seen 100 times before.
And I mentioned it with Mick there in our discussion, but I think Ronan Hale has to get a big pat in the back for that penalty, because I can't imagine there's many more daunting things in football than having to take a penalty into Kasper Schmeichel, let alone retake it when you've just missed one. It was a brilliant take. I was convinced he was going to sky that.
In front of the Green Brigade as well.
Exactly.
No, that was quite a moment. By the way, he's absolutely drilled the second one, hasn't he? The first one was a poor effort, but he's drilled the second one. It was a cracking finish. And it's funny because Mick said that he's brought up in his match report, and it's the theme for my column actually tomorrow as well, is that, you know, Brendan Rodgers has said that he's not going to change his style in Europe. You know, he's going to stick with what he goes with, stick with what he did over in Dortmund, which ended up another really difficult, kind of painful night for Celtic and for Scottish football in general, because we don't want to see our sides getting turned over and humiliated like that. Now, I get that Brendan Rodgers isn't going to rip everything up and adopt Don Cowie's tactical blueprint from today. We get that. But there has to be tweaks, and he could actually look. And the funny thing is that I think before the game they were saying that Don Cowie was the first player that Brendan Rodgers actually paid a transfer fee for. I think 15 years ago when he was cutting his teeth at Watford.
Okay.
And Don Cowie, the pupil, has actually put on a bit of a tactical masterclass there in terms of how do you get a side which as a glaring financial chasm between it and the team that's up against, and yet make them competitive. And I think, I genuinely do believe that Brendan Rodgers should look at that and say, right, can I steal something? Can I just take little bits from that and try and feed it into how his Celtic side will play against Atalanta in a couple of weeks' time?
Well, Sorry, Keith, didn't mean to interrupt. Basically, what I was going to say is, I think a lot of Celtic fans, I can't really speak for them, you know, but I think a lot of people would share the opinion that Rodgers, after the Dortmund game, has said, look, I'm going to go with my vision. I'm not going to go there and lose 3-1 sitting in. I'm going to go with my vision and everyone else be damned. But there's an in-between.
Yeah,
we saw
it's very arrogant. It's very arrogant, and I don't believe him either. We sat here the other night, and I said to you, he can't go the same way again. He can't. He has to make changes. He has to make them tighter. He has to tweak his midfield. He has to fill gaps. He has to make them more compact and difficult to play through. And if he doesn't do that, I'm telling you now, get ready for a bad night, because Atalanta are a terrific side. They move the ball so quickly. They're very like Dortmund in terms of the speed that they can hit you at. And if Celtic are as open as they were in Dortmund, they'll get a spanking again.
Yeah.
It's almost guaranteed. So
And we saw yesterday Dortmund lost 2-1 at Union Berlin.
yeah,
So I mean, it can be done. You know, I do think it's a bit disingenuous to say, look, this is the only way we can play. It's the only way I'm going to play.
it's foolish. It's foolish, and it's beyond arrogant. And actually, the manager has an obligation to come up with a system that helps protect his players and protect his team.
Jeff Ray, live on YouTube, says it's how Celtic always play. It's in our DNA. No one's saying, Jeff, that you have to play that way every week against that, you know, Aberdeen, Hearts, whoever, Ross County. But when you're away at the Champions League finalists, I think you've got to make some concessions.
Yeah, and next up is the holders of the Europa League from last season.
Yeah.
These are top level teams.
Some of the best teams in the world.
And if Celtic go and play as wide open as they did the other night, they'll get another scalping. So I actually don't believe. I mean, I'm not saying for a second, and you know, nobody would expect Brendan Rodgers to park the bus in Bergamo and, you know, set out a side which is there with only one real aim, which is surviving. That isn't the Celtic way. That's absolutely correct. But there are ways of setting out a team to still retain ambition to go up the other end of the park and damage the opposition, but are also difficult and compact to get through. And that's the balance that he has to find, and he will. I refuse to believe that he's just going to go and say, "Same again, lads. Just play the same way as we did at St Johnstone." I just don't believe it. And if it does happen, and he gets another scalping, then he's got nobody else but himself to blame. And I tell you now, I mean, I heard this thing about, you know, oh well, you know, we'll sit in and we'll probably still lose 3-0. If you make it competitive, and even if you do end up on the wrong end of a 2-1 or a 2-0 or whatever, but you've made it competitive. You've not embarrassed yourself. And even if it does feel like a hard luck story, Celtic fans, I think the vast majority of them would take a hard luck story over a humping.
Oh, aye.
Because they don't want another one of them. It is embarrassing. It's excruciating to watch. So there is an obligation on Celtic to try and learn lessons and make sure the same mistakes don't happen over again. Of course there is. It's the whole point.
A couple of more comments just before we move on from Celtic on today's game. Here on YouTube, Mo again. McCowan's a player. Rangers, is he okay? Commenting on Celtic for a change. Don't think Ida as a starter. Celtic completely different than the team. Pretty damning for someone who costs £9 million. And Jamie here, Engels doesn't look 11 million. Trusty can be got at. I don't know about all that, Keith, but I do think Luke McCowan really kind of stood out when he came on. And Engels, I'm sure he's a quality player, but I think McCowan must be pushing pretty hard to get in that starting 11.
Well, you've also got Paulo Bernardo, who's pushing for a place in the starting 11. And it was interesting that when Brendan Rodgers made the changes, he made two. He put, you know, both McCowan and Bernardo on. And I agree with you. I thought that McCowan looked really good. He's got a lovely touch on the ball, but he's got a bit of physicality as well. And he's obviously, you know, he's highly motivated. I think he will have quite a contribution to make over the course of this season. And I'm not sure that he's just going to be an afterthought. I think when he is getting these cameos, when he's coming off the bench, he looks the part. So it's interesting because, you know, there's so much competition now for places. You know, Callum McGregor's going to start, and you just know that. But then it's who plays around about him. Engels obviously paid a lot of money for him. He has looked quite impressive early on in his Celtic career. But yeah, I thought he was posted missing in Dortmund, and he had a really poor afternoon today in Dingwall as well. So, but that is the beauty of it. That's the beauty of building a squad with a high level of quality. Is that if there is a player that's struggling for form, well, you just take him out, you put somebody else in, and the team carries on. And you know, the options are really, really strong for him in the middle of the park.
At Pittodrie, 83 minutes gone. It's still Aberdeen 2, Hearts 2, but George Grant has been sent off for the Jambos. So 10 minutes. I know it looks like a cracker, but you're obviously better watching the Hotline live. Before we will talk about Rangers, who are playing St Johnstone tonight, of course. It's weird that it's an 8 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday, but anyway.
Why was that? Is that because of this Great Scottish Run or the Glasgow? What is it?
I think it's the Great Scottish Run. I think so. I think a lot of streets in Glasgow closed off.
Brilliant.
But let's talk about a couple of yesterday's other games. I wanted to talk about Hibs, Keith, because look, I want David Gray to do well. I know he's a Hibs legend, rightfully so, but I can't see what he's trying to do with Hibs, and it's another really poor result. I know Motherwell, I think that's now 5 wins out of 6 for Motherwell. I know they're flying at the minute, but Hibs fans just want to see a team that is competing and winning games that they should be winning, surely.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought they did okay at Ibrox the previous weekend. And you know, I think some Hibs fans were starting to think, we can see what direction this is moving in. He's brought his own signings in. He's got his own stamp on the team now in terms of the personnel. But yeah, they continue to Hibs it, don't they? And the fans, I don't think it's fair on to ask them to tolerate yet another season of underachievement. You know, we're looking at Hearts just now. They might be starting to turn a corner. I'm very conscious of the fact I'm saying that with only a few minutes left at Pittodrie, and who knows what might happen. But they might be turning a corner. Hearts, you know, 3rd place finish last season. Hibs are just constantly having to look across the city and see their rivals, their neighbours, outperforming them. There has been quite a bit of movement in terms of bodies in and out. It should be better. And that all said, you take nothing away from Motherwell because Stuart Kettlewell continues to do a really impressive job there. Going to Easter Road shouldn't be an easy venue to go and pick up 3 points. A lot of the fact that it is down to, you know, the inconsistency of the Hibs side. But, you know, you've got to say in terms of consistency, Motherwell just keep on chipping away, picking up points. And they're doing fine. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't know where Hibs are going. But they're not the only team in the Premier League right now that you look at and you think, I'm struggling to see what your defined style is. I'm struggling to see what it is that you're actually setting out to achieve. The kind of football, signature football that you ban. And, you know, and by the way, chief among them is the Rangers side that will play against St Johnstone tonight. Again, they're kind of just getting by game by game, week to week, but without any sort of clear, defined style or system. There's a few clubs in the Premier League right now that you could lay that one at. But obviously, Rangers' individual quality means that they'll get, you know, more results will go in their favour. But you just don't know what you're going to get, and I feel like that a little bit with Hibs as well. You don't know what you're going to get from.
I know I'm going back 3 years here, and I don't want to labour the point too much, but I keep going back in my head to when Hibs sacked Jack Ross after he'd finished 3rd in the league and got to 2 cup finals. They would kill to be in those sort of positions now. I don't know. It just, like I say, I struggle to see what they're doing.
Do you know why you're frustrated? I can see that you're frustrated, and I know why. Because what we need, you know, I hear a lot of people knocking Scottish football all the time, right? And fair enough, right? We know we're not the English Premier League. We know we're not La Liga, Serie A. Mind you, Serie A, I don't think it's particularly impressive. We've got a decent product. It's enjoyable. It's dramatic. But what it really needs is for our bigger clubs to really punch their weight.
Fulfill their potential, aye.
Yeah, and if you've got Hibs flying, Hearts flying, Aberdeen flying, Dundee United, what a top 6 you're looking at.
Yeah.
But it just so happens, it seems to be that there's a cycle. Someday one of them will do quite well over a period of 12 months, then drop away again. And then, the other ones are struggling and they're down the wrong end of the table and they're actually, sometimes falling out of the top flight completely. It'd be just great if the stars would align and Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hibs and Hearts were all really competitive at the top end of the table. It would make the league so much more competitive and enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. The other game that I wanted to touch on yesterday, Keith, was a big win for Kelly at Dundee. 2-0 down on the 81st minute, but Kilmarnock come back and won 3-2. A really dramatic day, and Kelly have been close to getting wins and that win in recent weeks, and finally they got it yesterday.
Yeah, and it's a massive one. And it's brilliant, isn't it? Because every time Derek McInnes takes his team to Dundee to face his old mate, it seems to be high-scoring draws are the order of the day. So when it got to 2-2 yesterday, you thought, oh, there you go, okay, they've done it again. It's another share of the points. But I think for Derek McInnes to actually come out on top of Tony Docherty and take the 3 points, it was really needed because you kind of feel as if Kilmarnock, another club that have been waiting for a shot in the arm this season, and maybe that is the result that can kick them on. I think that result means they're now 2 points behind St Mirren. St Mirren are in 6th, and Kilmarnock are 2 points behind. So in terms of targeting a top 6 finish again, well, that one win kind of.
Oh, there's been a goal at Pittodrie, Keith.
There we go.
Aberdeen 3-2 in the 89th minute.
Wow.
Massive goal for Aberdeen.
Well, I did say that I've absolutely kiboshed Hearts there, haven't I? I've killed them.
Kiss of death.
So maybe Hearts haven't turned the corner after all. But by the way, what a result for Aberdeen. If that stays,
I'm still waiting to see who the scorer is, but it is 3-2.
If that result stays like that, then honestly, it's absolutely sensational stuff from Aberdeen, and it sets up this mouth-watering game after the international break when top of the table, Celtic versus Hearts at Parkhead, both sides 21 points from 21. I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you can get the bigger clubs really motoring, then you've got so many other great kind of plots and side issues that need to be resolved, and an absolute table-topping clash between the two of them after the international break. Well, you're already looking forward to that in anticipation, because Aberdeen, to some extent, are an unknown quantity. Everybody keeps saying they haven't been tested. Well, whatever tests that are thrown in front of them, they're sailing through them just now. They're continuing to win games, and it'll be very interesting to see the kind of measuring stick of what does it look like at Celtic Park against the champions. Really fascinating.
Ante Palaversa with the goal for Aberdeen in the 89th minute. Absolutely massive. And we're just going into injury time in that one. It is Aberdeen 3, Hearts 2.
I mean, that's a blockbuster of a match as well. The league's gone back and forth throughout the course of the afternoon. There's been drama. The place is sold out. I can imagine the atmosphere must be through the roof just now. This is brilliant. It's great. It's really healthy for Scottish football to have Aberdeen constructing a run like this. And I think I said it right at the start of the season that I really fancied Jimmy Telling. I thought, I like the look of this guy. I think they've got it right. They finally got the appointment right. And, they're absolutely motoring.
Yeah. A couple more comments before we move on to Rangers, Keith. A couple of people asking if I'm a Hibs fan. Jeff here in the comment section. I get it probably came across like that. But no, it's just like Keith says. I know it sounds like dead kind of altruistic, I just wanted the teams to be good. But,
Can't we all just get along?
Aye, exactly. But like Hibs are too big. Seeing all those empty stands at Easter Road, they've got so much more potential than that. And Rangers is okay chimes in with, I don't think Hibs, Hearts and Aberdeen have been flying all together in their history, which is probably true. It's almost
you need to go back a long way, that's for sure. You need to go back to 80s, 70s, 80s.
Aye. And Jamie here, Keith, wants to know randomly, Bashrami or Engels?
What's the question?
Who would you rather take, Bashrami or Engels?
All right, okay. Don't think I've seen quite enough of Barami yet. I don't think I've seen enough of Engels yet either, to be fair. Certainly some of the boys were raving about Engels. You know, I think Swanee, who knows a player all right, he was certainly raving about him after his debut. I've not seen a great deal from him, particularly not in these last two games. Rami does look like a decent player, talented boy, no doubt. But you know, I wouldn't say he's setting the hell on fire either, is he? So that's one. Come back to me in a couple of months. Once, well, you need to get a body of evidence, don't you? If you
Oh
want
no,
to
of
make
course not. I'm
comparisons.
sorry, I was tittering there because it was so random me asking you that question. And finally, Jeff in the comment section asks, "What's going on with your disco lights, Keith?" We should address that again. We have a state of the art HQ.
Yeah, like everything in modern day life, things that are meant to make your life better just make it more complicated. And we have a lighting system in this office, an energy saving, and it's really energy saving because it just switches the lights out every 2 minutes. If there's no movement in the office, the lights go out, and I'm stuck here in the dark. Which, by the way, is probably what people imagine that I'm like most of the time, sitting in the dark.
Right, let's, just to keep you abreast of stuff at Pittodrie, 94 minutes gone, Aberdeen 3, Hearts 2, Hearts down to 10 men after George Grant was sent off in the 75th minute. Kiiskanen, Devlin and Palversa with the goals for Aberdeen, Spittle and Kent with the goals for Hearts. That's an injury time. But let's talk
6 minutes. 6 minutes of added on time, and I think we've played about 3 minutes of them.
Yeah. Aberdeen on the brink of a huge result. Right,
massive.
Let's talk about Rangers, Keith, because they play St Johnstone tonight. And earlier on today, I caught up with Record Sports' Andy Newport, who'll be at the game this evening. And here's what he had to say.
Record Sports' Andy Newport joins us on Hotline Live. Andy, how's it going?
Very well. And yourself, Daniel?
I'm very good, thanks. I'm talking to you, obviously, in advance of Rangers playing St Johnstone this evening. Before we got into the St Johnstone game, I was hoping to get your thoughts on the aftermath of Thursday night's game against Lyon. I obviously spoke to you before the game. I'll be perfectly honest, I actually thought I was quite confident that Rangers would get a good result. I think you were kind of maybe a wee bit more hesitant than I was, but Lyon were just a cut above.
Still tipped a 1-0 win, so was a wee bit off with that one. So with some of the other boys earlier in the week with the Dortmund game as well. That's you get asked these questions and sometimes they don't come off. But yeah, I mean, listen, I can understand Luke Clement after the game. He obviously came out with these comments about he thought it was a harsh result. And I can understand that to an extent, but in other ways, that if you miss the kind of chances that Rangers did, then that's exactly what you leave yourself open to at this level. Really should have been 2-0 up after 7-8 minutes. The two great chances, obviously James Tavernier, then obviously the open goal one that Václav Černý sort of slashes at and puts over the bar. So at that level, you have to take those chances, and if you don't, you leave yourself open to the kind of result that we saw at the end.
The Černý one, I'm still trying to work out how he missed it, but I was wanting to get your take, Andy, as well. And he's one of these players he's deleted his Instagram in the last few days after getting a bit of stick from that game. I feel really bad for him, but we spoke about it when he had the spat with the Rangers fans a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. It's just the demands of being a player at a big club like Rangers, really. It's just relentless.
Yeah, I think he's obviously been at big clubs before. He's been at Ajax, so you kind of presumed that he would be aware of the level of intensity that you get at these sort of big clubs, but it looks like it's sort of taken him by surprise a wee bit. I mean, obviously the sort of spat he had, as you mentioned, in front of the enclosure a couple of weeks ago, kind of summed up just his own frustration. I think that the fans are putting on so much demands and expectation, but I sort of put the question to Kieran Dowell after that game, going, you can't expect them to change. You know, the fans have been here before you, they'll be here after you. This is how they act, this is what they demand of their players, and it's up to you to get on the same page as them and either up your game or you find yourself sort of left out and moved on. So, you know, that's the challenge for all players, that, you know, not just Rangers but Celtic as well, that you have to be able to, you know, cope with the pressure, live up to the expectations week after week. So, you know, he's got a lot to prove so far. And, he had an exceptional start. If you think back to the cross he puts over for Cyril Dessers to score against Dane Kiev over in Lublin, and then you know, starts the next week against Motherwell.
Was my great goal.
Terrific. Scored a cracking goal. But I must admit, I think he's not kicked on from there at all. Really, he looks a bit one-dimensional at times. You know, he just always seems to be wanting to sort of drive in and out onto that left foot of his, and all teams really need to do it. It seems it's just sort of double up on him and he just sort of runs into traffic. So I think he's got a lot to prove. I'm interested to see if he gets a start today, but you know, he wasn't impressive at all in midweek. Obviously missing the chance as well. It's been a couple of maybe 2 or 3 games in a row now where he's not looked like having the threat that he showed early on. So that's going to be an interesting one today if Clement decides to go with him again.
One man that will be challenging today for a starting berth is, of course, Ianis Hagi. I mean, I don't imagine many people will be expecting Hagi to start today, but it will be interesting to see if he gets, you know, a run out under Clement, if he gets given this, you know, a chance.
I mean, you kind of know the way that Clement is when people say rejoin the squad or join the squad, that, you know, he's not the type to throw them in right for the off and give them 90 minutes here. They have to, in terms of fitness-wise, they have to prove that and show that they're up to the speed. The interesting thing with Hagi is that he's been training throughout this. He's been playing for Romania. He's been playing games for the B team. So is he going to be up to speed? We're not quite sure yet. I mean, what I would say is that when we spoke with him before Thursday's game at the press conference, he wasn't. He didn't sound like he was overly enthusiastic about the prospect of welcoming back Clement. So I just wonder if this is one, okay, they've come to an agreement that gets them over this contract issue. But I mean, you only have to think back to the summer where I'm pretty sure there was comments from about him where they basically just said that he wasn't in his plans. Whether that was to do with finances or if it was just on a footballing basis. But as I said to you when I spoke with you, Daniel, through the week on Hotline Live, you know, I think there is a little bit of a tendency with this one that Ianis Hagi's all of a sudden become a better player the longer he's been out in the eyes of many supporters. You know, we all remember the impact he had when he first came to the club, the role he played the year that Rangers won the title, the form he was in before he got his knee injury. He was impressive, but you know, I always go back to think the lack of pace has been a big issue with him, and I think, you know, there's been an appearance that he's even maybe perhaps a yard slower still after coming back from what was a really serious knee injury. But we haven't really seen the Rangers jersey for over a year now before he went that loan to Spain. So perhaps, you know, maybe he's got over the worst of that. He's back to in terms of sharpness, fitness. He's got some of that back. So it'll be interesting if he can come in. Listen, in terms of raw talent and ability, technical ability, that nobody doubts Ianis Hagi. It's just whether or not physically can he contribute in a league that is fairly demanding in that aspect. So, but he'll have to prove it. He'll have to earn his place back in the team. For me, it doesn't look like Clement is, as I say, overly enthusiastic about the prospect of having him back in the team. If he's going to get his way back into the starting lineup, he's going to have to impress the manager and do that on the training pitch and the wee cameos that he can hope to get.
I'll give you a chance, Andy, to kind of redeem yourself in the prediction stakes. What do you think the score's going to be tonight, and who's going to get the goals?
Daniel's a reason why I'm not living in a big mansion, having taken the bookies to the cleaner. You'll have to look at my Willie Hills account to see how bad that went after. Okay, tonight's I think Rangers should win. They should win. So St Johnstone are a bit of a transition with new manager coming in. So I'd say a 2-0 home win, I think, would be a reasonable proposition. So tune in for tomorrow's Hotline to see me proven massively wrong, no doubt.
Andy, thanks very much for joining us. Much appreciated.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks, pal.
Cheers, Andy.
Rangers 0, St Johnstone 4.
I tell you what, the one score that we do know, Keith, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, the final score from Pittodrie, Aberdeen 3, Hearts 2. It means Aberdeen and Celtic, top of the table, 7 wins from 7 each. And of course, Hearts, rock bottom of the league, Keith, 1 point from 8 games so far.
Yeah, well, there you go. I made a prediction about them turning a corner just about 20 minutes ago, and that didn't really work out, did it?
Hearts fans, you know who to blame.
Bus.
Yeah, you know who to blame. That result, as if it wasn't already important enough, Keith, you know, not only they need to stay in touch with Celtic, Rangers 8 points behind Aberdeen as we sit here right now.
Yeah. It's astonishing. What Aberdeen are doing is astonishing. We talk about pulling up trees. Well, there is the definition of a guy that's pulling up trees, Jimmy Telling. This has been absolutely faultless in terms of his introduction to the Scottish game. And they deserve all the praise going. And I said, you know, I really mean it. It'll be fascinating to see how this Aberdeen side measure up when they come down to Glasgow in a couple of weeks' time. I genuinely cannot wait for that match, because then we'll get a real indicator of, you know, is this flash in the pan stuff? I've already said that I think this is way more than a flash in the pan from Aberdeen. But can a really great start become a really credible title challenge? Well, we shall see. But it's all eyes going to be on it. It's going to be unmissable.
See, if you look at from the start of the century, roughly, Keith, almost every league in Europe has had at some point one shock winner where the perfect storm comes and everything aligns.
Somebody has a Leicester City season.
Leicester in France, I can think Montpellier won it from absolutely nowhere. So did Lille. In Germany, Wolfsburg won it one season. I think Stuttgart did as well. There's been a lot over the years.
Leverkusen last season.
Of course, Leverkusen, I mean, obviously, Celtic are the favourites. We know that. They're going to take some beating. But you would think some team eventually would push the Old Firm close. Maybe this is the season.
What is it? It's 40 years? 40 years now since anybody that wasn't Celtic or Rangers won the title.
85, I think,
I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, I have to tell you. But, you know, all Aberdeen can do is keep on winning games. And they are producing. So let's see. I mean, it does, if we're all being honest, it probably feels like a bit of a pipe dream right now. Could Aberdeen win the title this season? But with each passing week, and he puts another 3 points on the board, you have to start taking this more realistically. Yes, Celtic remain by far and away the strongest side in the country. I don't think there's any doubt about it. You know, the financials alone will tell you that. But this Aberdeen side, something's happening. And that's why I just think it'll be so interesting to see. We'll get the indication will come from that game. If they really give Celtic a game, a run for their money, even if it was a close defeat, well, they're still in the fight, aren't they? I mean, if they go down to Celtic Park and they get absolutely demolished and turned over, and Celtic turn on the style as they did against St Johnstone the other week, then it's a bit of a back up the road, lick your wounds, and, you know, let's just concentrate on making the most of what's been a brilliant start to the season. But if they can go down there and take a point, win, or at least ruffle Celtic's feathers, then that's the indicator that this season might have some twists and turns to come.
Yeah, and it's as you said, Keith, it's Celtic at Parkhead next for Aberdeen after the international break, and then Rangers on the 30th of October as well. Just finally, Keith, because it's been a jam-packed edition of the Hotline Live, you don't envisage Rangers having any problems against St Johnstone this evening?
I've just said St Johnstone will win 4-0.
I mean, to be fair, Simo Valakari, his first game in charge, could be a new manager bounce for St Johnstone maybe. I mean, if against all the odds that was to happen, then Hearts are really marooned at the bottom.
Oh, I see what you've done there.
Hey.
Marooned. Yeah, look, there's quite a lot on this game tonight, for various reasons. Rangers, as I said earlier, I watched them. The performance against Malmo was really impressive. You could see certainly signs of what the manager is trying to put in place in terms of quicker passing through the midfield into the forwards. I wondered if you improve the quality of the three players furthest up the pitch, will you then start to see what the style is? Because better individuals make the football better. But then it's one step forward, two steps back, and they were all over the shop the other night against Lyon. I was critical of Celtic for their performance level against Dortmund, but at least you could see what Celtic were trying to do. They didn't do it very well, but you could see that Rangers. I still can't see it. I don't know what it is that I'm meant to be looking for when I'm watching Rangers. I genuinely can't see what it is that the manager is asking his players to do, and that would have to be a huge concern after a full calendar year at the job. There's just no sign of it. So he badly needs not just to win points. He badly needs to win over the supporters, win them back on his side, and he can only do that with performance levels. A 2-0, Andy predicts 2-0. Well, that kind of smacks to me of another one of these kind of bland, beige performances, and they just about get over the line. And you can almost hear the fans grumbling in the stadium, and they're angry, and maybe Czerny biting back, or Desser's throwing his hands in there. The Rangers can't have too many more of those performances in them. What they need to do is start impressing people, impressing their own fans, winning back hearts and minds. And the only way for them to do that is when a St Johnstone come to town, you actually turn on a bit of style. You try and do to them what Celtic did to them at McDermott Park a couple of weeks ago. That's when Rangers fans will start to buy in a little bit more, or reconnect with Philip Clement and his players, because I feel there's a big disconnect there just now. Yeah. And with every sort of haphazard, lame performance that they put on, that disconnect's just going to grow. And you're talking there, Daniel, about Aberdeen and Celtic, 21 points each, sitting at the top of the table. You're absolutely right. Rangers need to get cracking. If they're going to make any inroads into that, they really need to get their finger out. And that comes back to, they have to find a level of performance. And yes, the manager has to find a clear, identifiable style. There's no definition to what they're doing. And the sooner that he comes up with something like that, the better, I think.
Yeah. And as always, we'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. to pour over the Rangers and St Johnstone games. Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Never a chore.
That's it. And if you were watching at home, thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who sent us in comments. And as I say, we'll be back with another Hotline Live tomorrow evening. Thanks for watching.